Okay.
Okay, I think we're recording. My name is Rich Willey, and I'm interviewing John Swana. John's in Philadelphia. I'm in Fletcher, North Carolina, just outside of Asheville, and it's November 22nd of 2020, the big year, 2020. So thanks for doing this, John.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. All right, so I was just going to have a little fun and kick it off by asking you to tell us something that you wish people would ask you, because there's something you wish people knew about you that they'll never find out because of the usual interview questions, which don't ask you things that we care about most of the time. So what do you got to tell us, man?
You know what? I was thinking about that question because you told me before, and I don't really have anything. Like I don't, but I thought of something. I did think of
Okay.
something more. I wish that I would have said in interviews that I would have given my mother more credit for my music upbringing and her fighting my father. Like when I was a kid and going to college, she was like, fighting for me to go to music school, where he's totally cool. He loves what I've done and everything, but he was more like he wanted me to be an engineer, so he was not really happy about me going into music.
I can totally relate, man. I mean, it sounds like we had the same parents. My dad was an engineer.
So was mine.
No kidding.
Mine was yours.
Well, for the longest time, he got an engineering degree from Georgia Tech, and he inspected steam boilers, the big giant steam boilers that you climb in.
Yeah.
And then he worked his way up. He got his PE, and he became a nuclear engineer, and he worked for Westinghouse inspecting the giant steam boilers for the nuclear reactors.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was, pretty heavy duty engineer. Tell me about your dad, man.
He was a electrical engineer, got his degree at UMass and got his master's at Columbia, and then worked for GE. And I guess his big thing, he had like a patent on one of the Apollo missions he was on.
No kidding.
Yeah, so he kind of told me about it, where he was on the aircraft carrier and they couldn't communicate right, and he kind of figured out how to make something quick, jimmy something so they can get a better communication.
Wow, man. So your dad's badass. He's still with us too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, both of my parents are gone.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
That's okay, man. It happens. I mean, it's going to happen to you and me too. Hell, what are we going to do, right?
Yes, it is.
You can't fight it. And you know something? My mom was always like a closet supporter of mine, kind of like what you were saying. I don't know if your mom might have been more out in the open.
She was out in the open. She was like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad, he never really had anything good to say about music or the music business, but he would always walk around singing songs. He loved music. And so when I finally decided, you know what, I don't care what my dad says, man, this is what I do. And I'm doing this concert in Florida, and my folks were in the audience, and I was a guest artist, and I stood up and I blew a solo, and I think I probably did okay, and got a big round of applause. And my mother said later, see, my dad would never tell me this. My mother said later, your father leaned over to me and said, wow, maybe he really is good. Maybe this really is what he's supposed to be doing. So that's the closest thing I ever got to approval from my father. So I'm glad I decided I didn't need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Did you have to fight it?
Well, I pretty much got similar things where he was not into it, but once I did some CDs and he heard them, because he was the same thing. He would go around the house singing songs like weird. I don't know if you know, I talk to the trees.
Oh yeah.
But they don't listen to me. Be singing this or listening to Beethoven, or they both like listening to like Copland. So they put us to bed to like Rodeo.
Oh yeah.
And
Billy so you had good taste. Yeah.
Yeah. But eventually when I had CDs and he listened to my music, then he kind of was more kind of proud that I made something out of it. And then he would be like, oh, I kind of like that tune you wrote. That's a nice tune, So he had some positive comments, but really, he didn't really care. It was my mom was like trying to get to every gig I did. She was like totally behind the scenes when I was young.
And how many siblings do you have?
Sister and a brother.
Okay, older, younger?
Older sister. She played flute. Now she's like a physical therapist. My brother wanted to play trumpet, but he when he went to the band director, he said he just knew. He went to the teacher and said, what do you want to play, Mark? And he said, horn, because he was thinking horn like what I'm playing. And they gave him a baritone horn.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was like a baritone trombone player.
Okay. And you were talking about tunes that you've written. When did you start writing?
Really, I wrote a little in college, and then I always fooled around with, early on, I had like an Amiga computer. So I'd make these weird sequences back in the late 80s. But once I got my first record date, I wasn't expecting to get a record date. I thought maybe he liked the way I play and he put me on a record date and I could, just play, be a sideman. But once he gave me a record date, I was like, oh, I got to write some tunes for this. So that kind of gave me incentive to write tunes for in a jazz context.
And that's the CD with Tom Harrell as your side
No,
man.
no, that's before Tom Harrell.
Oh,
That's introducing. It's called Introducing John Swana.
okay.
So I did wrote 2 tunes on there, and then I started writing every CD. I'd kind of think about the people in CD and kind of write based on that. But I was more into, I think, even now, I don't try to write tunes. I'm just fooling around with, I'm more of like a tinkerer. I'm trying to figure out my equipment and see how I can write based on what the equipment gives me, rather than write a tune for a quartet. I mean, I would, if I had a record date, I would go into that mode maybe. But I kind of like just fooling around with the toys and trying to figure out how to make that happen.
Okay.
Like that, that electronic thing you listen to.
Man, I love that. A-bomb, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
A-bomb, that is heavy, man. You are a genius. You absolutely are. And I was hoping that I was complimenting you by telling you that it reminded me of
Right.
sitting up late at night in my headphones when I was in high school listening to Frank Zappa instrumental albums.
Yeah.
I mean, he was heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, your stuff is definitely, it's outstanding, man. Really heavy. More people need to hear that.
I mean, thank you, but I've been checking out different electronic people, and there's some great stuff out there.
We're talking about you right now, so
Okay.
hell with them. No, I really, that's outstanding stuff. And so let's see. The first Crisscross album you were on, which one was that? Was that your?
Introducing John Swana.
Okay.
With Benny Green, Kenny Washington, Peter Washington, and Billy Pierce.
Okay. Billy Pierce of
Art
Blakey fame. Yes. He was on the band with Charles Fambro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard that band in '81 in Wichita.
It was Winton in it then?
He was. And James Williams and alto player. Bobby Watson, yeah. Outstanding band. Outstanding. Yeah, they blew the house down. They were the star of the whole jazz festival. Wichita Jazz Festival, 1981, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was outstanding. Okay, so let's see. So when did you record with Chris Potter? Your first recording with Chris Potter?
Was maybe your record.
I was wondering if you were going to remember that. That's right.
Because I always had this story where I tell students where I was at a session for you, and I'm trying to warm up on trumpet. You know how you feel, you don't always feel great. So you're like I'm buzzing my lips and blowing in the horn a little, and this kid comes in, like kind of a little hyper, sits down, unpacks the sax, and it's like, and then goes over to the piano and it's like, there's the stuff, and then walks out of the room. I'm just like, God, I haven't even got to know that.
I think he was like 21 or something right at that point. Do you remember? 92. I think that was 92. October of 92.
Yeah, he might have been 21 because I remember I saw him at the Vanguard, I think when he was 18.
Yeah.
Maybe in 90 he was 18. So maybe he was, yeah.
I had played a big band gig with him in Wilmington, North Carolina, the New Year's Eve going between 90 and 91. Yeah. And I was totally blown away, man. He stood up and did just an improv solo feature with the rhythm section on Skylark. And I had never heard sax playing like that. And I just knew I had to play with this guy. So, and also on that session that you did with me in New York, Claudia Roditi was on that.
Oh, that's right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Now check this out. You know, Dizzy Gillespie made Claudio famous because in some interview, Diz said, "Yeah, Claudio's the greatest bebop trumpet player in the world." And well, Claudio told me, he said, "Man, I tell you what," he said, "all these New York guys," he said, "this Swana cat is better than any of those guys." So he loved your playing, man.
Oh
He,
man,
he,
we
he
played later. We played later on a couple of gigs. He was funny.
he's great, man.
No, he's great. Yeah,
Nicest guy, smoking his cigars. Yeah, just the most wonderful dude, man. I loved him.
he was funny. We were doing a Brazilian gig, and I was playing a Bach 72,
Okay.
and he had one of those awes.
Oh no! Did he destroy your mouthpiece?
No, you didn't go to the mouthpiece. He went into the trumpet.
Mm.
And like took out the lead pipe. He didn't even ask me, but I was just like, "Yo, what are you?"
I know. He
No,
walks up to you. You
it'll
can't
help.
stop him.
It'll help.
Yeah, he grabbed my mouthpiece and says, and he pulls out this drill bit set and that he carried around with him. And I said, no, you can't do that, man. No, please don't do that.
Right,
So I have enough trouble. He says, no, I'm just going to help it. I said, no, I don't need any help, man. No, but I love Claudio. Okay, so then you're on Chris Potter's introductory CD at Crisscross.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that helped him, I'm sure, and probably helped put you on the map a little more. But I have several of your Crisscross albums. I don't know if you knew that I was a stalker all those years. Now, where did you and I first encounter each other? You might remember this better than me.
What was it? Trumpets East, or was it before? I feel like it was before.
Well, you told me that you had heard the Al Raymond band do a concert at Temple, and I was playing valve trombone in the band, and Al Gray was playing trombone.
Right. So when was that?
86 or 87. You were a student at Temple, so when was that?
Yeah, I was a student at Temple. I was kind of supposed to be finished by 86, but I was like, I didn't get finished till 87.
So it was in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But
So,
then, yeah, Trumpets East was the first time I think we worked together.
So you were in the Philly area from what years to what years?
I was actually living in Philadelphia from 81 to 84. And then I moved over to Mays Landing at the suggestion of Lynn Biviano, because he says there's no good jazz trombone player. I was playing valve trombone. He says there's no good jazz trombone players in Atlantic City. So I move over there to try to get my card. You know, you have to live there for a year without working before you can get your union card. Well, turns out they didn't need any jazz trombone players. It definitely didn't need any valve trombone players in Atlantic City. So I worked way more in Philadelphia after I left Philadelphia, which is when I had worked with Bill Pusey's Trumpets East before I left Philadelphia. And then he was calling me for a while, and then he started calling Shelley Ginsberg. Is that right?
Okay, yeah.
Did you work with Shelley?
No, I know the name. I don't remember working with him. I feel like when you left, I was gone too, or something. I don't know.
But then he started calling me back again because Shelley had cancer and stopped being able to do gigs. And we did a whole bunch of school clinic stuff in the South Jersey area, I remember.
Yeah.
And I remember you were playing EVI by that time.
Yeah, I remember like I one tune, a solo, Dennis Wasco was playing trumpet, right?
Yeah.
And one tune, the solo was in like F sharp. And I was like, screw that, man. I play the EVI. I'll just put it in my G.
Oh, is that what you did? Oh, you dog.
No, but I didn't do it all the time. I did it then, and Dennis totally called me on it. And then I never did it again.
Oh, man. Oh, that's too bad. Well, I remember you played on the Brecker tune Sponge. Bill had a nice arrangement on that, and you nailed that. And Rick Kerber was on the band. Jim Ward. I think Rocco Taraborelli played in there sometimes. Dennis Wasco, Bill Pusey. Who else was in there, man? Ron.
Did George Rabbi ever play?
Oh, yeah. In fact, the first gigs I played before I left Philly, George was on those. And Ron DeSantis, is that his name?
Tony DeSantis.
Tony DeSantis. Oh,
yeah.
I'm confusing him with a mayor or something. Yeah. Tony DeSantis. Yeah, I just saw him a couple years ago in Harrisburg at ITG. Still sounding great, man. Yeah. Tony DeSantis.
Yep.
Yeah, George Rabbi. In fact, there was a jazz festival out. It was the name of a bank. Starts with an M. I can't think of it.
I mean, back,
Yeah, like early 80s,
yeah,
82, 83.
I think I have a shirt too, and I can't remember the Mellon Jazz Festival.
That's right, Mellon Jazz Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did an arrangement that George had written of one of those Bob Brookmeyer, Clark Terry tunes, and George and I were the feature on that one. I remember that. Yeah, George,
Yeah.
man, what a great player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So yeah, we had some history, man. We played a bunch of gigs, and then we played the Willingboro Jazz Festival. That much I know because Bill just a few years ago sent me a DVD of that. That was in '89,
Okay. Wow.
and you sounded phenomenal on that, man. We both looked a lot younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody looked a lot younger.
yeah, yeah. So that was great. Well, let's talk about this little baby. And I had been doing funk stuff, uh, and I had been making mock-ups of these. I had shoulder surgery back in 2005, and I was not supposed to play trumpet for 3 months. So I started writing tunes, and I was making mock-ups. And what I was doing was I was using a trumpet sound and 3 or 4 different synthesizer sounds. So when I decided it was time to do a recording, and that's really what this is, man. This is a record. I was trying to put the band together to go down to Florida. We would have been doing that right now. Actually, we would have already
I
done
remember.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, 2020 worked out differently. But so yeah, I had synthesized sounds in my head the whole time, and I'm thinking, you know, I could call Swana, but man, I don't know. And then I'm talking to a buddy of mine in DC and asking him about like who's the perfect drummer who can really play smoking jazz and play burning funk. And he said you need to get Byron Landham, and I didn't know him. And he said, well, he's a Philadelphia guy. I said, yeah. I said, I said maybe it'd be an excuse to call both of you guys. So when we did, we got you and Byron, and then Mike Boone all to come down to play that session.
Yeah.
And so for you, I know that was a different kind of session for everybody. Tell me what, you know, your remembrances or whatever you want to say about, you know, here you are playing valve trombone and EVI. How many calls do you get for that?
not like studio calls, that's for sure. But yeah, it was fun. One memory I have is when we got down there, we were playing one of the horn parts, and Dan's sitting next to me, you know, and I played the line, and Dan turns and he goes, "Tent means short." And I was like, okay, I understand. I know what this is going to be like. I got to, you know.
he brought some LA into the recording
Right,
for us. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's good though. It just went, you know, I got zoomed in and got very focused. Now, what was that noise?
All of a sudden my shoes were starting to bother me. I had to take them off.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry about that. You busted
yeah.
me.
So that was a lot of fun. That was a blast, man. I love doing that kind of stuff and like being really focused and just having this job to do and being, you know, you're just like the whole day you feel like I like being in the studio and doing that. I just like the time. It's work, but it's not work. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah. Yeah, I was 100% focused, and I never got tired. I never got sleepy. I never got bored. You know, my mind was never drifting off somewhere else.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I don't know what else to say. Yeah, you feel energized. It's like, this is the whole reason we're playing, we're making this project together, and we're trying to make the best thing possible, you know?
Now, it would be nice to take this band and play some gigs. It really would. So I'm still hoping to do that at some point. Now, of all the people, you're the first one who's made time to interview with me. So I'm really excited about this. I'm going to get these up on the website and hopefully get an interview with everybody. So, yeah, but I really think, I mean, you know, after 3 days together in the studio, I felt like, you know, we were a band. We had gelled, and, you know, we did the rehearsal takes, and some of the rehearsal takes, I thought it was already there, you know. We did a rehearsal take, and then we would go ahead and run it down, and we patched up a few little things. I think it seems like just about all of the solos were done with a live rhythm section. I don't remember, with the exceptions of the ones that we had to, you know, ship out and get the sax solos imported from elsewhere. They were all done live in the studio while the rhythm section was playing. Do you have that memory?
My memory is we did the solos like that, but we had the option of doing the solo again because everything was
Already there.
yeah, because the rhythm section and we were separated enough that there was no
Bleed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you could either do it then or do it later. Or you could do it then with the understanding that it was okay to do it later as well.
right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now that was a nice studio too.
That was great studio. I love that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the grounds it was on.
Right. Manifold Recording Studio in Pittsboro, North Carolina.
And then we went out. I remember going out to eat that night. I don't know where we go. Do you remember?
It was someplace that had a rock band.
All right.
Yeah, like a commercial band in there. We're all
Yeah.
having a little fun with that. Yeah. And old Dave Stryker, man, he's the star of the show wherever you go, man. He does all his impressions. Yeah. He's cracking me up. And that's when the trouble started.
Right.
So yeah, so you got, I think you got 5 or 6 EVI solos. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 EVI solos. I and Wally did all the arrangements, and in his wisdom he mixed them up so that not everybody was doing solos on every tune, or I didn't play a solo on every tune, thank God, right? And Bobby was the first guy I asked to be on this thing. When I decided to start a project, Bobby Floyd was the first, because man, that organ, I tell you what. Well, you grew up in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You remember Trudy Pitts and Mr. C and Don Patterson and Herbie Nicks and
Yep.
Shirley Scott, and let's see, there was another one. Did
Joey
you Joey? Okay, I didn't know him. Did you know Bruce Mills?
I don't know if I knew Bruce Mills.
But there were several organ bars in Philadelphia.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's like some places that will have a piano. They had an organ, and it was it was built into the place basically. Yeah, man, I just love the organ bars.
No, me too. It's funny. My first impression when I went to the organ bars was for me growing up in a Lutheran church, even though we had, I think my Lutheran church was the organ player was Dave Loeb, who's an LA guy.
Okay, I don't know.
And, but just it reminded me of church, like going as a kid and kind of being like daydreaming too much. And so at first I was like, organ, church. but then it didn't even last, because the whole vibe is churchy, but in a totally different way. It's like soulful and like
jazz church.
Yeah, jazz church. Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, yeah, so anyway, having Bobby on there was fantastic. So let's see. Today is the day that Kennedy was shot in 1963, November 22nd. And I think it was in 2015 or maybe 2013 or 2014. I heard something on the news. They were talking about JFK, and they were talking about the contributions of great presidents, and they mentioned the New Deal, and that very day I had written this tune, and I decided to call it Nude Eel. so that's the anniversary of that tune, and you played a brilliant solo on that, man. It's a minor blues, and you played, I guess everybody played 3 choruses except for me. Wally didn't want me to blow on the changes, but I blew on the fade out. But man, you played a beautiful EVI solo on that. And I think a couple of your masterpieces of, what do I know, right? Are the solo you took on Blessed of the Hip. I think that's one of the greatest solos of any musician ever, man, because you just, oh my God. And I know the changes, that's why I feel like I can especially appreciate what you did on it.
Right.
And also what you did on Goofin Off, man. I just don't know how you did that. That was absolutely magnificent.
Oh, thank you. Hey,
yeah.
You hear that noise?
Is there a noise?
Yeah.
On my end?
Now it's gone, but it's real subtle. But there was like a real clicking. You'll check the recording when you listen back.
Okay. Oh man, I hope it doesn't make it sound terrible. Oh, you know what? This is on. That shouldn't be on. My EVI was on.
Oh, mate.
Oh no, people are gonna think I play EVI. This guy, John Swana, he plays EVI, man. So I was checking out some videos today because you turned me on to Mark Steiner, who's a big EVI guy, and plus he knows how to repair them. Nephew of Niall Steiner. So I was showing my wife Janet some of the videos of him, and then we flipped over and watched you do a couple of things. And I said, "Now there's an EVI player. You really do play EVI." Mark is good. He's got all the sounds. He knows how to get all the sounds.
Yeah.
But you're killing it, man. And now that I've started playing it, it kind of irks me because Mark will get on his tutorial EVI tutorial videos and say it's the easiest instrument there is to play. Well, I don't know, man. I've been playing trumpet all these years, and there's things about this that are just 100% counterintuitive. And I'm sure. Tell me about you learning EVI, man. What on earth drove you to it, or prompted you to do it, and how did you stick with it? And tell me what you do, man. How did you get so damn proficient on it?
Well, I mean, when I was playing trumpet is I was always frustrated because I'd be playing with Glenn Guidone. You remember Glenn Guidone?
No.
Uh,
Wendell Hobbs.
Wendell, yeah. So I went to high school with Glenn, so Glenn got me into improvising. But I was always frustrated because I'd always be tired on trumpet. I'd want to keep playing, and Glenn would be playing, and I'd start to get tired playing trumpet. And I just wanted, once I heard about the EVI, I was like, wait, you blow into it. There's no embouchure. You don't get tired. I was like, I'm getting that because I was just going to use it as a practice tool,
Right.
So once I heard about it, that's what I was going to do. And that's kind of what I did. And once I got it, I just diligently played it every morning. You could turn it on without blowing into it. I kind of turn it on so it played, and I just would go through scales, go through thirds, go through fourths, go up and down the instrument, and spend like an hour or two doing that, and then go about doing whatever else I was going to play, practice trumpet or whatever. And I did that for about a year, and it took about a year to kind of get proficient enough to bring it on a gig. And then I spent time back in those days doing different things, playing with computer sequences I made. So I could play with headphones at night, So that period, I put a lot of time in just having fun playing it and not worrying about chops. It was like heaven at first because it was like, oh my God, no chops. It's awesome.
But you didn't have trouble, like, to me, the awkwardness of always having to play that C sharp and the D and the E flat, with the lower octave fingerings. And in fact, it's messing with me because I was playing my valve trombone the other night, and I was playing a melody, and I was playing the C sharp, and I was playing it all three. I was like, why is this note out of tune? It's because I was using the EVI fingering, man.
Yeah, I remember being frustrated a couple times and going, God, am I going to get this together? It's like a pain in the neck.
It's not comfortable. Yeah.
And even now I'll play like I'll play at night or something, and I'll have dry fingers, or I feel like sometimes at night if I'm just sitting at home or whatever, I'll be blipping, and sometimes I don't feel like I have the same finesse maybe I always want, but I mean, and you do blip. Even though the session I did for you, the other thing, I was looking at the MIDI data because I recorded MIDI for Wally.
Okay.
And I looked at the MIDI data, and the sound sounds great when it's playing, but if you look at the MIDI data, there's these extra notes that are in there.
Those are the blips.
I guess they're the blips that you don't even hear. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, I was sending a lot of data to this computer because I was using, like, on our EVs, to get a little nerdy, there's the BR plus, breath plus extra stuff. So, my computer would actually freeze a lot of times when I was trying to take a solo with the MIDI in there because it couldn't handle the MIDI data, which is weird. But anyway, yeah, so I spent a lot of time, did that, and then finally I kind of got over the hump, and then it just became enjoyable to pick it up and just play on stuff and not worrying about calisthenics and all the usual brass thing you got to do. And then it got me to appreciate doing the brass stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And the feel of what a brass instrument is compared to that, because there's no feeling to the EV. I could do a whole gig and go, did I just play a gig? I don't even feel it. I'm supposed to be in pain, you know?
Well, actually, when I played bass trumpet all those years, I used to leave gigs feeling like I hadn't played any gig because, you know, I don't think there's any instrument as physically demanding as trumpet. You know,
Right.
I've spent a lot of years playing trombone gigs, and you can get tired, but not like you do on trumpet, man.
No, trombone is when I started playing the valve trombone, I was just like the same feeling you have. It's like, this is great. I can just keep playing. It doesn't have that, we can use more muscle on our face.
I could play 3 hours and feel stronger at the end than I did at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah, play 2 3 hour gigs in a row, and it's a piece of cake. Who plays any gigs right now? But and you know, that reminds me that I think your first bass trumpet, I might have had something to do with that.
Yes.
I sold you a horn I had no business selling you.
I know. That's great.
What did I do? What did I do? I sold it to another guy, and then I borrowed it from him. And then I think he moved, and then I sold it to you. So I sold it twice. Yeah. But I think I only charged just like $70 or something. So it wasn't too bad.
I don't know if it was $70.
You think it was 70?
No, I thought it was more than 70.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
I have no idea.
I'll pay you back. All right.
But I gave that to my brother because he played baritone horn for me, and he had it for a long time, and I got it back. And then I gave it to Mike Boone's son, Mackay, as a present.
Okay, cool.
So
Those are Olds marching valve trombone. Supposedly those were good horns.
I like those horns. I still like it.
Now, you had something on your neck that stopped you from playing trumpet for a while, right?
Well, I had a tumor in the saliva gland. So they had to kind of, So I was having problems. And it's possible that the problems were affecting the nerve that goes through the eye or next to the eye down here, because I was having problems with this corner. So, but that's all cool.
Okay. Enough years have let it heal.
Yeah.
When I had to leave trumpet and go to valve trombone from 81 to 94, I think. No, 96. Doc Reinhardt had told me probably in 1986 or something that the mental scars take much longer to heal than the physical scars, because I had completely destroyed my bottom lip. I had a hole on the outside and a hole on the inside, so that's why I had to stop playing. So so being able to play trumpet and trombone, do you ever do sessions where you play both instruments?
A little bit, but I'd be interesting to try now. But I started playing trombone with like a puffed cheek embouchure. So, and that seems to be, when I've done them both, that seems like they don't conflict with each other. But when I started bringing my cheeks in, like on your session, I stopped doing that, puffing my cheeks.
Right.
Then now it seems like it's getting better, because I'm trying to do, I think you were telling me, I've been trying to play trombone every evening when I'm finished playing.
Okay.
Like try to go back and forth.
Right.
And maybe play some trumpet. So it'd be interesting to try that. I've done a couple gigs like that. Yeah.
Because I remember discovering that I could play both horns on the same gig, and it was like, whoa. So it was a quintet at the time, me and an alto player who also played tenor. So we would do trumpet alto stuff, and then we would also do trumpet tenor stuff, and then we would do bass trumpet and tenor stuff, and it sounded like 3 front lines.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great, man.
And there was no problem for you to go back to trumpet from bass trumpet?
It fluctuates from day to day, from gig to gig, but most of the time, no. And in fact, I started playing tuba like 3.5 years ago. That seems to help my trumpet playing, of all things, man. You wouldn't think so. Of course, shoulder surgeries don't help. I just had another shoulder surgery in May, so I'm still coming back from that. But the trumpet's coming along, man. So, but yeah, it's a man killer. That's what I always call it. Trumpet's a man killer.
I would like to get a tuba someday. I've already told you that. But
yeah. Well, so let's see. Any other fond memories of our conspiracy session, since this is going to go up on my conspiracy website, this interview?
just driving down with Byron and Mike was fun.
I was wondering about that, man. You guys had some, a little bonding time there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I drove the whole way up and back. Those guys are like, "Are you guys want to drive? Yeah, we're cool." Like, all right.
So
I
you
was
were the
into it.
chauffeur.
That expedition that thing was great.
Those are good. Yeah, I rented one once to drive to New York from here. Yeah.
Those were awesome to drive. I was loving it. And yeah, no, I mean, just meeting everybody, it was fun. Everybody got along. We had a little rough at the beginning,
Right. Which is to be expected.
but
Yeah, that first day, the setup took way longer than I thought it would.
yeah.
So that was uncomfortable.
And then I guess we always felt like we were behind the 8 ball or something, or behind the clock.
But we got everything done that I wanted to get done. So it was great, man.
And we were working hard, but it was like I said, it just feels good to do that. I like doing that. I don't have a problem.
And, Dan Fornero, we had talked, we talk a lot. And he said, there's a difference between recording a band and doing a record. And he said, we're doing a record. And, the more I thought about that, yeah, that's exactly what we were doing. Because I had written a bunch of tunes. Wally had written a bunch of, excellent arrangements. We had stellar players. And we just wanted, when people listen to this, we don't want to say, oh, that was all first takes, because we're so badass. And, you get to hear all the mistakes forever. I'm not saying that this is perfect, but man, I tell you what, everybody was focused and everybody did an impeccable job, man. I was just so thrilled with how good it came out.
Right. So what did he mean by when he said that, though, between recording a band and doing a record?
Okay, so if you're recording a band, it's like we want to document this moment in the history of this band. On the other hand, we're making a record. We want to make it's like, a portrait or, a fine portrait. We're getting together and we're going to do everything we can to make this product as good as we possibly can. And the fact that it was a great band, of course, helped, right? Didn't hurt anything.
Right.
But it wasn't really a band, man. It was a bunch of guys who, I kept running into guys and say, man, I want to use this guy in a recording. And so we put it together and we got my music recorded, which is, exciting for me. Now, after listening to your A-bomb recording, I think I asked you, I said, why on earth would you want to play my stuff, man? My stuff is not advanced like yours.
Your stuff's awesome. Beautiful. I loved playing on it. You can't play a good solo if you don't like the tune you're playing on.
Well,
yeah. So I'm not saying I played a good solo, but
I didn't even take it that way. That's funny.
But you can't feel comfortable playing if you don't like what you're playing on. You know what I mean?
Well, Kenny Shanker, the Wisecat Records guy, I told him, I said, man, I think it's the arrangements that really make this. He said, nah. He said it's probably the tunes, and he said, and the players. He said, because you can have a great arrangement of hot cross buns, and it's still going to suck.
That's a nice way to put it. That's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I felt a little better about my tunes, but I like to write melodies with chord progressions that are enjoyable to blow on. That's I'm into melodies.
Yeah, and I understand what Dan's saying too, because like you said, you're documenting something. You're documenting like a piece of art. Like these things come together, so you don't want to just just put it together haphazardly. This is forever.
Right.
So you want to make it sound good, so it's like a quality thing. I kind of thought like that because I've done some records where my first feeling when I was doing jazz records was to have the purity of the jazz spirit involved.
Right.
Like, for instance, I remember my first record, we did 3 Little Words.
Okay.
And we had a break at the end, kind of going down by the tritone minor 7/5, going down chromatically. And I had something totally prepared. I prepared on trumpet and I played it. And then we didn't use that take. And then we did another take. And I was like, well, I can't play what I just played. They'll know I totally prepared. So I didn't play it. And that's the take we used. But then later on, I noticed guys would do stuff. Like, remember doing a session, one of the drummers had an intro. Once he got his intro, we did like 5 takes because the head was really hard. He played the same intro. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. What are you going to do? Make up a new intro every time? You know, you're doing a record forever. You made up this intro.
Right.
That's cool. Stick to it. Sounds good. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
So, I mean, to me, that's why, yeah.
Well,
That's why you want to be particular in the recording.
Yeah, I try not to play the same thing every time, and I end up doing that. And at North Texas, Rich Madison said, "You know why you keep playing the same thing over and over, don't you?" And I said, "Because it's all I know." He said, "No, because you like it."
Oh, that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. So
I always get bummed when I hear myself like 15 years earlier. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm still playing the same.
well, I know as a younger musician, it was easier to absorb and incorporate. And, you know, like I would take something in and it would start coming out in my playing sooner. Like now, I can try to drum something into me and it won't come out in my playing and, you know, my blowing.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a lot easier as a younger cat.
It is.
So, what would you say to younger guys who hear Johnson? By the way, what year were you born, man?
1962.
Okay, yeah, I was born in '55. I knew you were a little younger than me. So, what would you say to a young guy today who wants to become the next John Swana?
Don't do it.
No, you know, and it's funny because I'll send you an email and you'll send me back a one-word response, you know. And I told Janet, my wife, I said, yep, a man, a few words, but a man in many notes.
That's not necessarily a good thing.
That's a great thing.
Well, it depends.
No, you say a lot. You say a lot with those notes. I hear a lot of people who play a million notes who say nothing, but it's with you, man. It's like that's how elaborate what you have to say is musically. So I love it, man. I love what you're playing. I always have. I remember back in Trumpets East, you were my favorite soloist to listen to. And who else soloed? Randy Kerber.
Rick Herber.
Rick Kerber. His brother was Randy, right?
No, his brother's Ron.
Ron. Who's Randy? All right. Rick Kerber. Yeah. Yeah, he played good, but he told me, he said, you know, I'm like a big band soloist. I'm good for like 8 bars, and then I don't have anything else to say. But he sure sounded good in those 8 bars. But he played more than 8 bars.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Rocco was good.
Was Mike Natale ever playing when we were doing it?
I played with Mike Natale. I think it was with Trumpets East, but I don't think it was very many times. Maybe twice. Maybe it might have been more than that. Yeah, I remember Mike a lot more than that. He was a great player.
Yeah.
And you know Larry McKenna. Is he still with us?
Yeah.
Man, you talk about a great player. That guy.
Yeah.
I got to work with him a lot.
I was supposed to play with him a couple weeks ago, but we both actually canceled. But he was, you know, he didn't want to come out because it was at Chris's Jazz Cafe.
Okay.
So I think he was feeling kind of nervous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Bootsy, that's how Bootsy had COVID.
You told me.
Yeah. I'm doing a tribute to Bootsy next week, like a stream with his nephew. Well, no, with his grandson and Byron.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Charles, there was a tenor player into Charles Bowen.
Yeah, I remember Charles.
Is he still around?
I haven't seen him in a long time. He was like, he had the gig at Gertz.
Yeah, he straightened me out on several melodies. I remember, you know, melodies that I wasn't playing right. He took me back in the back. He said, "Here's how this goes."
Oh, nice.
He would show me how it went. Yeah. No, he was a good guy, man. I love Charles.
Yeah,
Charles Bowen. Cool. Yeah.
I remember playing with Herbie. I think I told you the story. Herbie Nicks, and we were doing Green Dolphin Street, and I was just kind of learning it, and I didn't know, you know how it kind of does on the second ending, it's a little different to lead to the end.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And I didn't know it, so I never played it, and Herbie never went to it.
Oh.
I was
That's
like,
hilarious.
Yeah, so you kept looping the first day.
That's too funny, man. Yeah, Herbie. I like Herbie on "Call Me." You know the tune "Call Me"?
Oh, yeah.
When it gets to the "Call Me," da 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 da, he would go, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. But he would do a Killer Joe thing on that. And it was
Oh yeah,
so hip, man. Herbie was fantastic.
yeah,
And Don
I,
Patterson. Oh man,
yeah,
that guy was brilliant.
yeah. I love playing with Don.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good upbringing, good jazz upbringing for me, man. The
Yeah,
Philadelphia
me.
Cats.
I think that really you can't. You have to pull out some kind of soul in yourself to play with an organ. You can't just be up there, da 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 da, you know, playing some. Organ just brings out a different thing that you have to deal with, and I think we were lucky to experience it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it made me play better. Now, what was the place at
And
40th and Market? Was it Natalie's
Natalie's, yeah,
at 40th and Market? They
and
used to
Top
have,
Shelf 50s. It
what's
was the
that?
top. It was the Top Shelf. That Top Shelf's still around.
Okay, well, Natalie's, every Saturday, they would have an open jam at 3 o'clock, and then at 6 o'clock, they would have the pros play. And at the open jam, I remember they would have somebody there ready to escort people off the stage if they weren't making it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you don't remember that?
Oh no, I didn't go there as much as I did Gertz. No, I didn't. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I used to go to Gertz on Monday nights, Trudy Pitts and Mr. C. I did that a lot. John Simon used to go there too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, John Simon ended up having a gig after Ralph Bowen.
Did
I
he?
mean,
Okay.
Ralph, not Ralph, Charles Bowen.
Charles Bone. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah. So your thing, just so you know, it almost sounds like it's recording or doing some weird stuff on Zoom.
oh no. Well, I'll listen to it when we get done. If it's too bad, we'll just do this whole thing again. No, we'll leave it alone. But that's a shame, man. I was hoping the fidelity would be good. I might need to just use a different mic. I'm using the mic on my the Logitech webcam, so maybe
No, the
that's the culprit.
fidelity fine. It's almost like I'm hearing like a camera, like sounds like an old motion picture camera. Like
Huh. Well, I wonder if
it's
that
not
nah, the
happening now.
furnace.
It doesn't happen all the time. It just does it once in a while.
Maybe when I'm talking, trying to tell me to shut up. So, hey man, John's supposed to be getting interviewed. You're not supposed to talk so much. Well,
You'd probably be a good podcaster.
well, I've thought about it, but I just don't really have anything to talk about. Talk about
Yeah,
jazz
yeah, but yeah.
and
But
talk about my limited grasp of jazz. All right. Well, any parting words then? Because we've been on here for a long time. I didn't know this was going to last this long. I appreciate your time, man. You've been great.
um, uh, just had a great time at that session, and it's always great to keep in touch with you. And I'll try to leave a couple more words in my emails.
Well, don't worry about it. Well, I'm going to be coming to you for some more EVI lessons because you're you're just an inspiration, man. And you're also, okay, so I'm talking to the people now. One of the things that John told me that really helped me was he said, you know, when you get to be our age, people are looking for all kinds of ways to exercise their brain. He said, there's no better way than to learn a new instrument. And he said, EVI absolutely is a new instrument. It's not trumpet at all. You know, the only similarity is playing the one octave, right? But everything
Right,
else, you know, like this thing, and I mean, you know, on trumpet, you can hold your fingers down and play a whole series of notes. On this, something has to change to get every note. You
right.
don't play any two notes in the same position. Something that so I'm definitely not used to that, man. So the amount of concentrating you have to do when you're learning EVI is just I've never had to concentrate that hard. It's been great, man. But I'm starting to record myself playing with Abersolds, which is good, and it's also challenging because some of his earlier recordings were done analog, and they're not always A440, as you well know.
Right.
And the tempos don't seem to stay as still as my band in a box tracks that I make for myself to play with. Have you ever
No,
noticed that?
yeah,
Some of those tempos just creep, man. Woo!
yeah.
By the end of the tune, it's like I'm dying.
You know what I started doing last time we did a lesson remember, I think I asked you, like, when you play, you breathe through your nose.
Oh, on trumpet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do it on trombone too, or you don't?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when I saw you do that, yeah, because you were playing the bass trumpet when you did it, and I started doing that on trumpet because my whole philosophy with not doing that was like I'm not going to get enough air. I'll get tired if I breathe through it. Somehow I was thinking it was like somehow cheating in some way. Like I should be able to just breathe, and it totally helps.
I think it does. And Doc Reinhardt said, if you can do it, do it. He said, but make sure you keep both ways alive, because the day that you show up on a gig with your nose all blocked up and you still have to play, you know, you can't have only developed nose breathing technique and no mouth corner breathing technique.
Right. Well,
So
what I do,
keep tabs on that.
what I've been doing, that's a good point. What I do since we got together was I'll do the breathe through the nose when I beginning to play. My first, let's say I start the phrase playing. Then when I keep it up there, I'm breathing through my mouth. Like I don't continually breathe through my nose throughout. Then once I got that set of that initial thing,
Right.
the nose attack, and then or breath, you know, it's kind of cool. It's definitely making things a little more stable.
Right. It helps eliminate unnecessary movement and distortion, which can actually tire you out on, because I know you watch guys who play, and every time they breathe, they take it off and then put it back on. You know, they're basically tearing it down and setting it back up again. So they're doing that dozens of times per phrase sometimes, you know what I mean? Or tune or whatever. And if you just keep it still and breathe without moving anything, you saved all kinds of energy and all kinds of endurance. Now it takes some getting used to it first. Are you
Yeah.
finding that?
Yeah. But I remember having that epiphany. I was teaching a student who's a really great trumpet player.
Don't you hate that?
Yeah. Yeah. He was kind of like, it was funny. It's when I first started teaching my master, I taught a master class at UArts. And it was the first time I did a master class. It was in the 90s, like middle 90s. And there was this one student there who was asking the dumbest questions. And I was thinking, God, this guy's he must suck. He's got to suck. He's just asking me the dumbest stuff. And then we finished and we both played and he was playing. I was like, wow, he completely doesn't suck at all. And then I ended up giving him lessons and he was just like a natural. Like he learned, the Carnival of Venice from the record. He didn't read it,
Oh man, I still hate him.
Yeah. And then, yeah. And the thing I got from when we play is I was always taking my mouthpiece off and he was just keeping on and keep playing. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep my mouthpiece on. I swear my endurance went up like 25% immediately. And I always thought I was saving myself by taking it off. But you're right. I was doing what you're talking about, creating distortion and just, breaking down everything. And once I left it up there, my endurance went up right away.
Yeah. I've told students, I said, so you're camping out and you've set up a tent and you get up in the middle of the night and you have to take a leak. So when you leave your tent, do you tear down the tent? I said, no. I said, you come back and your tent is still set up, right? And I said, yeah. I said, well, that's what you do with your embouchure. You don't tear it down and every time you have to leave to take a breath. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Well,
yeah.
It's kind of crude, but it kind of makes the point.
I know, it makes sense. Totally.
Well, John, this has been great. John Swana, you're a good man, hell of a player. And I hope we can do another session. By the way, the recording you talked about a few minutes ago, Wally, you did the MIDI information, whatever I'm trying to say. That is going to be a single that's going to come out, and more will be revealed. But John, man, you killed it on that. You killed it. Your EVI solo is just magnificent.
Thanks.
It really is, man. That's what I was hoping for. And there it is. Bada bing. Woo. All right. So God bless you, man. Thank you so much. This has been great. Now, when I end, that's when I can download the recording and see how bad that click is. And if it's too bad, we'll do it all over again. Okay.
Yeah. Check it out. Check it
all
out.
Right.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen all the time. It just happens once in a while.
Interesting. All right, man.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, John.
All right, Rich.
All right. Good night, man.
Good night. See you.